And we're back. This is episode 526 of the Colombia Calling podcast. Today's guest, this week's guest, will need no introduction whatsoever. They've both been on the podcast several times. But what's so cool this time is that they've teamed up and become, I would say, the super group of coffee production in Colombia. Well, small level, low level, community level coffee production. I'm, of course, talking about Native Root. Now, you'll remember Ervin Liz, who is from Cauca and is the director and owner of Native Root, is on the line, as well as Simon Winograd, who is now, it's a new title, the Director of Impact of Native Root. So together they're working towards getting low-level, community-based and produced coffee out there into the world. They have lots of news to share with us, news about Cauca, news about the coffee, the projects, the products, and so on. In fact, I'm quite excited to talk to them. So Ervin and Simon, welcome back, both of you, together on the Colombia Calling podcast.
Thanks very much, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Let's start, Ervin, because Native Root is your baby. Let's start with you. You started this many years ago, and in fact, when we first spoke, I don't even think I had one child. Now I have two children, and the oldest one is 9 years old. So that shows how long we've been chatting. You started with, it was called, I think it was a Colombia Coffee Connection or something of the nature. You obviously have been educated overseas. You speak perfect English, so we've been able to build on this friendship and talk about coffee and where you come from. So just tell us Native Root. Tell us what's going on and what's new.
Thank you, Richard. So we have been speaking for a long time now. Indeed, at the beginning, Native Root was called the Colombian Coffee Connection. I basically started the project in 2017, right after graduation. After that, I came back to Colombia, continued working under the same brand name. And then in 2021, with the help of some guys from the US, we rebranded into Native Root Coffee, after which the company became a family-owned business. So all of my siblings, my parents, they are all part owners of the company along with me, and we have been on a growth process, quite interesting. At the beginning, of course, we were working with just a few farmers. After that, we expanded up until almost 50 farmers. So that has been quite good, and we have been working on a number of projects, both selling roasted and green coffee inside and outside of Colombia. Things have changed now quite a little bit, which is something that we wanted to share with the audience. But essentially, everything has been going quite well, and we're very excited to also have Simon come up and join us. He's been a wonderful friend and a great help in different processes, and also just sharing our story inside and outside of Colombia. So in a short summary, that's where we are, and we're very happy to be here today.
I love this. The two of you have obviously grown a confidence and a trust. It's not a small issue, the family-run company bringing in someone external, albeit Colombian, but someone external with an extensive coffee background. I think in Chiapas, I think in Peru, now obviously in Colombia, and with the contacts in the US. So Simon, perhaps you can tell us what Director of Impact means.
Well, it's a good question, Richard. I think, above all, it's about an alignment of values. If you think of some of the other titles, chief financial officer, for example, is always sort of looking at the bottom line of an organization, of a company. Whereas, an impact director like myself, the way I see it, and also what's really cool about a role like this is it's still relatively new. And so we're able to sort of, create it as we go and build it as we go. But the way I understand it is that, instead of obviously, as well as looking at sort of the bottom line of things, the impact that our actions and behaviors and the way we conduct ourselves, how that impacts not just us as an organization, but everyone around us, everyone we work with, everyone we interact with, is basically how I can best summarize it.
Ervin, is that what you hope for from your impact officer?
Yes, so I think everything aligned quite perfectly, because we have been speaking with Simon for a long time. I mean, when we decided to start working together, I don't think that was the first time we had spoken about it. It had been quite a long time, and all of that had also aligned with the fact that as we were growing, we were thinking how can we impact the community beyond the payment, because one of the key things that we do is we pay farmers more compared to the market. Usually that goes between 12 and up to 30%, depending on how the market is behaving. But I just, I was listening to a number of podcasts, a number of people who have been in business, who, see business as a way to impact the community, to help the community to like actually, go beyond just the profits. And so I was always thinking, how can I more than just a company that buys coffee at a better price. And so with my girlfriend, we were thinking about it. We had been trying to frame something up, and we have been doing a number of things. Richard, I think we have probably spoken about this in the past. We have fundraised, we have brought gifts to the community, we have built homes, we have just done a number of things of that nature. And again, as I was thinking about that, we thought that one way to go beyond was to start thinking about how to include the community in a way that is doable for us, because from a business perspective, it's very hard to say that everybody is going to be the business owner as well, or become a shareholder. That formula is not very easy to do. I know that some companies have tried and do that, but for us, at the level where we are, it's not going to be that simple. And so what I thought was, can we bring in somebody that can look into the community, that can speak with the community, that can understand the community, and see where the key needs are, and so that way we can also do a more goal-oriented work, and in a mission-oriented work. Because you can do any type of donation, you can bring gifts, you can do all that. All of that is nice, but it's better if you can plan ahead, if you can envision where to bring the community to, and then create projects around that and start executing them. And so that's where I see Simon coming in, and he's already done that. I mean, he even went to the farm amidst all of the security issues, and when he was over there, he even I don't think he witnessed, but he was able to, or he was in Popayan when there was the bombing of the police station. So I am very grateful that nothing happened to him, but he is really putting his skin on the game. Like this is truly something remarkable, because I am not going to the farm right now, just because it's so complicated, the security issues over there. But seeing Simon's commitment of going to the farm, speaking with some of the neighbors, seeing what they are doing, what their needs are, that's kind of like where I see the role going. It's something that has to evolve. It's something that has to be worked with the community. It's something that has to be taught by the community and guided also with our knowledge and the knowledge of the elders in the community, so that we can bring about some change again that goes beyond just paying farmers better than the market. That's where we're heading. That's where I see Native Root coming in and really doing a major impact, something that involves everybody, that listens to everybody, and that works with everybody.
I like this because I can see it's a sort of a cross flow of information, as you said, learning from the elders there in country, and like I think it's your parents are coffee growers out there, all of your uncles, aunts, and so on are all coffee growers, but at the same time taking, for example, the knowledge that you have garnered by going to university overseas and school overseas and living in Bogota. You have a different, and of course Simon, growing up in the US, definitely there is information and experience to be shared. And I know that Simon right now, and we'll get on to, I know that my listeners are going, oh, well, tell me about Cauca, what's going on? We'll get on to that in a minute. Simon, you've been involved in coffee or sustainable farming practices, I think, for some time. You're up there in Michigan at the moment. How have people been taking to you talking about Native Root?
I mean, quite well. I think especially where I am currently in rural northern Michigan, where there's a large, sort of farmer-led movement, and it just so happens to be sort of part of my, circles of people that I've gotten to know over the years up in this area. People are really receptive to it, quite understandably so. There's some big sort of, local farm to table movements going on. And obviously everybody understands that, when you're sourcing, dairy or meats or, produce, you can sort of get it more or less locally here in Michigan. A lot of people don't realize that Michigan's like, I think, the third largest agricultural state in the United States, like after California and, some other state. But there's a lot being produced in here in Michigan. And so, but everybody understands that, coffee is coming from a much farther off place. So it's hard to say you're sourcing local coffee. And so, what I feel I've been tasked with is this essentially this outreach campaign. I'm always talking with people about coffee, and perhaps a bit sort of annoyingly to some, but I walk into some sort of boutique sort of foodie place, and sure enough, they've got all locally sourced goods, and then they have right above their coffee something to that extent, like, we're working with this particular importing firm, and I say, oh, who's doing your coffee? And they immediately go into sort of this scripted sense of like, well, we're working with this importing firm. And I've tried to sort of tone it down in a sense, in that I'm not trying to interrogate anybody or sort of, but I'm curious, like, oh, where's your coffee come from? Who's roasting it? How does the sort of logistics work? Like, these are all questions that have just been presenting themselves for years and years and years. And I'm not saying I'm certainly an expert on any of it, but I do have a pretty solid understanding of it after years of experiencing it in places like Colombia and Mexico. And so people are very open to talk about it, which is good, because it's a chance to sort of all learn together, and like, we can talk about more so further on, just this the reality of it, because I don't think anyone fully understands sort of these complex chains, certainly not to the extent of a situation like in Cauca and in Colombia, and that's sort of one of the advantages or interesting things about Colombia, is that with each growing region in Colombia, there's sort of experiencing a different reality. Certainly where I live in Quindío, which is very sort of Encanto-esque and Disneyland-esque, and it's very different from a few departments over there in Cauca.
Quickly, Ervin, what is the coffee market like right now?
Well, in general terms, it's been growing. There is a lot of new people interested in specialty coffee, which is really good. I mean, when I got back here from the US in 2018, people didn't know much what was a specialty coffee, and a lot of people uh, couldn't even imagine having a grinder at home. That was kind of like, what is that, and what do you do with it? And today, I'm just so happy to see so many people buy whole beans coffee, so they can grind it at home, they can, do the whole process, enjoy it more. And people really are asking today, what is the origin of this product, who's growing it, all of that stuff is amazing to see. How in what it's been 6 years. In 6 years, the market has changed, and I think I speak for everybody who is in the industry. I mean, it's just so many people, even people who are older, who generally are harder to change, because as you get older, you just like your stuff, and that's it. You don't want to go beyond that. And we have so many people who are older, in the 60 plus years, who are like so excited about the coffee, and they're like, I want to try this, I want to taste that, what does this taste like? And the price is also not so much an issue, because also, they have been so exposed to so many offerings from different companies. And producing a specialty coffee is not cheap. It's very high, it's very tough, it's very time demanding. There are so many layers of expenses involved in the process, the packaging, the roasting, all of that stuff. And so people no longer are asking, like, why is this coffee, priced in such a way? People are more like, what does this coffee taste like? What experience I'm gonna have? What, does it match my taste, profile, kind of thing. And so I really love to see that, and I think it's not just in Colombia; it's in many countries that is going this way.
I think so. I'm well. You're preaching to the converted here. I mean, there's no issue. For me, the most important thing is aroma, and then that first impact, whatever the sort of bouquet within my palate. And that's, I don't like fully roasted, like medium roast. I think
Yep.
the thing that is that what we recommend, because there's less impurities in high roasted. They're hiding the impurities in the coffee beans.
Yes, it's part of it. So basically, when you roast a coffee at a lighter level, you are gonna be able to taste more of what that coffee has. That's essentially what happens. On the other hand, you are damaging less just like the general organic structure of the coffee, the compounds, the volatile oils that the coffee has, because coffee in a way is quite medicinal. I mean, coffee has so many things that are fantastic for the body. It's been proven, it's been studied, not only in Colombia, it's been studied in the US, it's been studied in Switzerland, which is one of the major countries for coffee research at like the very scientific level, kind of like looking into it. What does it do? What does it not do? and how can you make it better? And so coffee has a lot of medicinal properties that people don't actually get to enjoy when the coffee is roasted so dark. So when you roast it very, very dark, you're burning away all of that goodness. You basically don't taste anything other than charcoal, and you damage the oils. And one big thing in the industry has been, you roast it very dark so that you can hide away all of the defects, all of the bad taste, because out there, the commercial coffees, they have everything in it. They have pasilla, which is the leftover coffees, the coffees that have been damaged, that are black in color, or that are yellow in color, because they are so acidic, or they have not been they have not ripened well. So out there, you're going to find all of that stuff, and when they roast it that dark, you are not able to taste any of that. And so they are able to pass any type of material, organic material as coffee, because sometimes it's not even coffee. Sometimes they put, sometimes they even put in there, stuff like like peas. They can put in
Really?
there chickpeas. Yeah, all of that tastes very similar to coffee. Like to coffee when it's like very dark roasted, because it almost tastes like it's a similar charcoaly taste. And so you're not able to differentiate between one bean and the other. That's not a very unusual practice within the massive industry. So a lot of people are not even drinking coffee, and so that's why they get sick. That's why they get their stomach ulcers. That's why the doctor says don't drink too much coffee, when actually
Mm.
coffee is a medicine. So if you are out there and you have this issue, I will recommend for you to just go and research the all of the information that is out there about coffee and all of the good stuff that it has. And there are a lot of information. There is a lot of information in very solid scientific journals, so you can look at it and convince yourself, basically.
Who cannot, who will fail to be thrilled about hearing such enthusiasm there from Ervin? So everybody, you go out, don't buy full roast, high roast, buy medium roast, and explore the range of independent coffees out there. Your enthusiasm is infectious, and I've had my coffee for today because I've had to cut it down a bit. I used to drink liters of the stuff, but good stuff. Let me get that straight right away. And we won't name the obvious international brands that I know do high roasting to hide the impurities and to buy massive suspect crops of coffee. We need to move on a little bit because we've had the good stuff. Native root, we've talked about the rebranding. I know you've got a new website up that makes it easier for people within Colombia to buy directly from you, and as you say, 12 to 30% of that purchase goes back into the community. That's a high percentage. There are no middlemen. It's Ervin and Simon, no middlemen. It's directly through these two, and it goes back into the communities in Cauca. And why is this so important right now? Because Cauca is, well, traditionally there have been issues with the conflict in Cauca because it's a strategically located department in Colombia's southwest, coca growing areas, and not so much in Cauca, but of course the transportation through the department to the Pacific coast, which now today means also arms smuggling and anything else you can think of that's unfortunately the illegal economies within Colombia. Cauca is very much affected. And this is why we need projects and businesses of this type to continue to invest into small communities to improve the quality of life. Because from what I've known from talking to Ervin and others about it, recruitment of children by illegal armed groups, regardless of whichever ones they are, is on the increase. And that is obviously an absolute tragedy. State presence is usually pretty ineffective in areas so geographically diverse as Cauca as well. And I just thought I'd jump in with Simon here because you've been down to the farms and you've been down to the coffee growing areas. Did you feel that the people are very much under the cosh of these illegal armed groups? Because I know we've got the ELN there, the National Liberation Army. I know that there's the FARC EMC or Nueva Marquetalia, whatever they call themselves now. And I know there's other dissidences. And probably the Clan del Golfo, sort of post-paramilitary, new organized armed group is there as well. Simon, what can you tell us from your experiences down there?
Well, I'd want to preface this with, I've been traveling to this region of the country, to Cauca, for a number of years now, via various projects and work things. We used to conduct interviews with landmine survivors in Cauca. And this was through an NGO based in the United States called the Polis Center for Economic Justice and Development. And so, yeah, you know, through the aid of the National Federation of Coffee Growers there and their Extensionistas sort of branch, who essentially liaisoned us through that area to conduct the interviews, and we're actually very, you know, integral in our work there. I know they have somewhat of a you know, muddled sort of reputation, but you know, in terms of our work, they were, you know, very integral. And so, you know, I've spent years in that region. I don't proclaim to be an expert by any means, but I do have a level of experience there, in which I think is, you know, aided in Ervin and I sort of pairing together and me understanding the region. And so, you know, but I still am forever going into it with this sort of open, you know, mind, is how I can understand it more. And, you know, the way I see it, you know, there I was on the farm with the family, you know, sitting in the dining room with the family at the dinner table, and thinking, you know, my job is essentially easy. Here I am surrounded by, you know, 3 generations worth of coffee farming knowledge. You know, we've got Juliet, the sister, you know, a brilliant agronomist. You know, we've got Jackie, you know, skilled barista, and all sorts of other facets of coffee. And then, you know, the parents, even the next generation of, you know, nephews and nieces growing up in the farming life. And you know, all I basically have to do is listen, you know, and learn. And so I feel very fortunate and grateful to be surrounded by such, you know, great wealth and just such great people. And then hopefully add, you know, my little bit of experience and knowledge and worth into that to develop some of these, you know, projects. Ervin and I have been, you know, talking about sort of these projects and how we can develop them and such. And it's quite fun. But honestly, this, you know, this time around at the farm, I personally didn't get a sort of sense of the, you know, the urgency of the situation. That could have just been, you know, it was in sort of in like a lull period, or just the fact that the family and the community kept me so close by that I felt, you know, completely, you know, safe at all times. It's not to say that you know, these situations weren't occurring by any means. I mean, apparently, when I was at a nearby bus stop, there was a very serious incident that happened nearby, but I was somewhat oblivious to. But then, like Ervin says, literally when I arrived into Popayan, they had that awful, you know, drone attack on the police station, and I've been going to Popayan for years as well, and certainly never heard of anything like that. So that is alarming, that these sort of newer sort of tactics are being utilized, which I think is something of concern. But you know, I think that's also what I understand I've been sort of tasked with, is conveying that story of you know, what's going on in Cauca and how it affects, you know, the coffee moving from the farm there in that particular part of Cauca to the capital city of Bogota, and just the, you know, talk about sort of complex supply chains. I mean, you're not only navigating just, you know, hundreds of kilometers of, you know, sort of poor infrastructure, but, you know, navigating these other factors, whether it's you know, just the things that are occurring there. It needs to be communicated again in a way that's sort of not to be, you know, an alarmist or sort of, you know, solicit pity or anything, but it's the reality. You know, your coffee is coming from a very sort of unique position and geographical location, and it deserves to be appreciated such, and ultimately paid more for. And so, that's essentially what I'm doing here in the U.S. is an outreach campaign, and like I said, it's being received really well because one, I'm surrounded by farmers here in northern Michigan who understand that these crops are very dependent on things like the weather. Sometimes there's good crops, sometimes there's bad crops. It's all up to these other factors that are very much a lot of the time out of the farmer's hands. But again, just to have that wealth of knowledge and 3 generations of worth of coffee knowledge is just invaluable. And Ervin and I have talked about sort of sharing this knowledge, whether it's with projects we're involved with in Chiapas, Mexico, and I've been involved in some really cool events where the bringing together of all these different producers. I'm thinking of one in particular in Guatemala where we had producers from Cauca there. We had producers from Mexico, Guatemala, from Nicaragua, from, all over Latin America. And it was just a time to meet, discuss, latest trends, best practices in agriculture, dreams, challenges, everything. And just how cool is it to be walking through a coffee farm in Guatemala with a guy from Cauca, from a cooperative that Ervin and I are both familiar with called Fondo Paez, farmer from Guatemala. And I remember Freddie from Cauca sort of showing the farmer from Guatemala sort of the sort of specific, pruning processes that they would do in Cauca. And something as simple as for someone like me who doesn't have much of a green thumb at all, it just looks like, oh, you're just cutting the branch here. But no, it was a very sort of specific cut and very meticulous, and the Guatemalan farmer could see that immediately and to see the difference that it would make. So just stuff like that, I think, is very cool and something that deserves to be celebrated and the story told.
I think that's it, isn't it? You have a story to tell. You are the conduit for the experience in let's say Cauca, also sharing, as you've mentioned, Guatemala, Mexico, elsewhere, Nicaragua, but you are the conduit to connect Ervin, his community, with the outside world. This is one of the major impacts that you have right now. Northern Michigan, tomorrow, whenever. San Francisco, Seattle, that West Coast coffee scene. I know it's going to be a roaring success. Ervin, you have just come back from Cauca, and we'll get past the negatives as we wind down. But it was unnerving. I think the situation is really quite terrible.
Yes, that's correct. So I was there this weekend, and just over the weekend, the different armed groups, they are doing illegal checkpoints at different places. There was one of them over the Paramo. So I wasn't there, but I did get the news from other people who were going by, and so the one of the big security issues is precisely that all of these armed groups are doing illegal checkpoints, asking for extortions. When people refuse to pay, they will burn the trucks, or they will steal the trucks along with everything in it. So situations like that, but we're Colombians, and even amidst that, we continue to work, we continue to dream and to try and do something for the community. I believe in my particular case, I was called to do an impact within my community, and that's basically what I'm gonna be that's what I'm gonna continue to work on, regardless of the situation. I think my family feels the same. They are out there. We have to start thinking in different ways to do business. We have to figure something different, just because we also don't want to expose our lives. But the idea is to continue working with the farming community. The idea is to continue I guess learning and then trying to see what exactly we can do to bring about change even in our small community out there. So yeah, things like that have been happening in terms of security, which has also, I should mention, change the structure of what we were doing. One of the big things for us was selling green coffee. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to continue doing that much of that, just because it's not been easy to source the coffee because of the security issues. And the more you source or the more you do business, the more you are exposed to having any of these people, and it could be any number of them coming over and trying to also ask for their cut, to ask for extortion from us. And the business is a very socially driven business, and so for us to have to pay extortions will be just deadly, basically, as a business, just because we're paying so much more for the coffees. And it's always been about working with the community, not so much about making a profit. And so that's basically what concerns us a lot. And so because of that, we have to change our initial sales strategy, and then just basically start selling mainly just roasted coffee as a way to add more value to the product that is coming out of there. We had one last shipment this year. I don't think we're going to be sending any more coffee for the rest of the year, just because of the security issues. And so we are well stocked, but it's very unfortunate that we have to base our decisions on somebody else who only wants to do harm and only wants, to take care of their own interest. And that is the situation. And so it really is a very frustrating, it's a very sad situation, that we were doing very well. We were going on a growth path quite nicely. And the idea, this year we brought a number of buyers that were going to send coffee to Europe. The idea was to actually expand the buying process and get to buy from 100 farmers. We already had people going over there. They loved the coffee. They were planning to be right around this time buying coffee over there at the farm, and we were going to install a coffee quality lab, so to taste the coffee right there at the farm, and then do a differentiation of the quality, and also pay the farmers more for their quality. All of that had to be halted, and so it's a very, again, sad situation. And I mainly get worried is just about the farmers, because they are going to have to continue selling the product at a very low price. And besides that, the guerrillas, they are even asking now for extortion to the farmers. And they, from what I heard, they are asking for 150,000 Colombian pesos per every carga, which is 125 kilos, which is something like close to 300 pounds. They're asking that much, which is generally what farmers, kind of like make as a profit out of that much coffee, right? And so when you start seeing that, it's like, it's just, these are despicable people. They don't have any level of how would you say that, consciousness. There is nothing out there. And so it's a very bad situation. And that's basically a number of the things that we are dealing with. And so we have to learn to navigate the new situation, the new security risks that we have over there. As per usual, things always end up getting better at some point. So that's our hope. Our hope is that things will change eventually, and that we will go back and continue to work with the community. Because one of the big ways to make the impact is, of course, buying the coffee direct from the farmers and then sending it to customers outside, which is what we were planning to do this year. We had big projections, and all of that basically had to be stopped. Even our internal sales, were of green coffee was about 40%. All of that was cut down, and so we're trying to switch into selling just roasted coffee as a way to recoup, as a way to add more value to the product. And so also to do that, and as you already mentioned, Richard, we just renewed our website. Our website is looking fantastic. We did a great job at renewing the website. The site is right now only available for sales in Colombia. We cannot take orders from outside of the country. We can, however, take orders from outside of the country via WhatsApp or via email. So if you are interested in buying our coffees, just make sure to go to our website, nativerootcoffee.com, and then over there you will find all of our information, our contact. And so so that's basically what we had to change, how we are adapting to the situation. And of course, Simon is helping us with all of this process as well, trying to get new buyers of roasted coffee, which at an international level is not very easy, because a lot of people have this misconception, and this is all based out of not the reality. A lot of people think that buying coffee from roasted at the origin is gonna arrive at their place at with a not a very good quality, when in fact it's faster to ship something from Colombia to, say, a country like the US or Canada than it is to send anything within the US. We have shipping times that are 2 to 3 business days, and sometimes 1 to 2 business days, and at a very good prices as well. So we can send coffees to a lot of countries at a very fast rate, and also with very good shipping times. And so basically that's where we are. That was kind of like one of the big announcements, our new website. So make sure to go and visit us, go check out what we have available over there, and yeah, that's pretty much where we are.
I think I can think of no better place to bring this to an end with Ervin's sales pitch there. But of course, remind yourselves, go back through this conversation we've had with Simon and Ervin. This is locally grown coffee, sustainably grown, small communities, direct from the growers themselves, Ervin's family and extended family, and the communities down there in Cauca. It is a troubled part of Colombia right now, and any purchases you can make, it helps. Every little bit helps these communities suffering down there in Cauca. And Ervin and Simon are doing noble, good work to try and improve the situation in this area. And that's all I can really, if I can impress that upon you all out there, nativerootcoffee.com. Simon, Chief, what do I call you again? Director of Impact. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts from up there in northern Michigan. And
thanks, Richard.
Ervin, Director of Native Root Coffee, as always, so eloquent and also so important. Your what you're mentioning about the situation in Cauca. So hopefully we can drive you a few purchases. I don't promise to make you rich through the Colombia Calling podcast, but there will be a few purchases. nativerootcoffee.com within Colombia, but on the website you can find WhatsApp and email if you want to buy overseas. These guys, they are very efficient and driven. So that's what we need here. It's the kind of thing we're doing. So thank you to you both for coming.
Hey, Richard,
jump in.
Real quick, just as long as we're doing talking sales pitches for your English speaking audience, we will be down in Detroit later this month for a
Nice.
large coffee event called Detroit Coffee Week, where we'll hopefully be continuing this outreach campaign and educating people as to the realities of Cauca and our company. And then also we'll be out west in Montana, essentially on the same sort of objective to educate people. I'll be attending a really cool event for experiential education outfit that I did 20 years ago, connecting with like-minded people to really continue to pass along the message of native root and this farmer-led movement. So I just wanted to throw that in. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. Detroit and Montana. Where in
Detroit,
Montana? It's a big state.
Missoula, so on the west side there. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So I'll put that up. Detroit and Missoula, Montana. Thank you to you both. Please, if you want to support the Colombia Calling podcast, that's patreon.com/Colombia Calling. Also Substack for Emily Hart. Just Google it. You can follow her news and Colombia briefings there. Please don't go away. Listen to some messages from our sponsors. And of course, we'll be back next week with further conversations pertinent to Colombia. Thank you and goodbye.